Policy under module 1 is the broadband wireless channel fading concept. So when a signal is going to be transmitted from the transmitter to the receiver, directly the signal cannot reach. So when I'm going to transmit, the signal is going to be transmitted through various paths. When it is going to get transmitted through various paths, we are going to have different obstacles to be present in the paths. So a multi signals are going to be when it is going to receive at the receiver, when the signal is going to be received at the receiver, I'll be getting a combination of the signals where the signals are going to have a small delay. That is because of the obstacles that is going to be present. So because of it, I'm going to have a concept called fading. That is, fading is going to be present in the signal there at the receiver side. So a fading concept is nothing but there is going to be a path loss or the shadowing attenuation effects that is going to be present due to the distance of the obstacles. So when a transmitter is going to transmit, that is the antenna is going to transmit a signal when to the receiver. At the receiver side, before the signal reaches at the receiver, there are many obstacles. Either the signal can be reflected, or it can be diffracted, or it can be it can pass through an obstacle, and it can reach the receiver there. So in that case, there is going to be an attenuation of the signal or a loss of the signal. That attenuation is going to be called as fading. So here this fading is going to be mainly for short distances, which is going to be caused by your reception of the multiple versions of your same signal there. So the multiple versions are going to be caused by the reflections. As I said, we are going to have multipaths that are going to have, and because of that we are going to have some fading effect to be present. So when different signals are going to be received by the receiver, if the signals are going to add up, that is the phase difference between the arriving signals are going to be added up, then we call this the interference to be the signal to be a constructive signal there, or constructive interference there. So suppose if the phase difference between the signals because of the diffraction or scattering or the reflection we have, if the phases are going to be different, out of phase with the signals, then we call it as destructive interference there. So in this case we can have the differences in amplitude of the received signal even over short distances there. So you can see in the first graph, your signals are going to, the delay is going to be very small. So as a result, the signal is going to be in phase with another signal. So we say that to be a constructive interference. In the second diagram, if I am going to see the received signal, the two signals which are going to be totally out of phase. So out of phase means we are going to have a destructive interference to be present. This is going to be taken at 2.45 gigahertz. So which is nothing but less than 1.1 nanoseconds in your phase. So here, if I am going to move the transmitter or the receiver even for a very short distance, then it can have a great effect on the received signal there, even though the path loss and the shadowing effects may not have changed. So when I'm going to move the transmitter, so first initially I have seen the transmitter and the receiver are going to be constant, stationary, and we are going to see how the signal was. Now if I'm going to move the transmitter or the receiver, I'm going to have the same multipath effects, but the received signal will have greater effect there. So in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to use a time varying tap delay line channel, where this time varying tap delay line channel model of the fading is going to be taken care, where the transmitter or the receiver is going to move relative to each other there. So when either the transmitter or the receiver or both are going to move relative to each other, in that case the channel response will vary. That means the channel response is nothing but the h of t. H of t is going to change. The channel response can be varied in two dimensions. Either it can be in terms of delay dimensions or it can be in terms of time dimensions. So the delay is going to correspond. So the diagram is going to show how long the channel impulse response is going to last. So this is how this is going to be the signal when it is going to be moved, how the channel response of the signal because of the delay it is going to vary. It has been shown here. So we know that the channel is going to be time varying. So in that case, the channel impulse response is also going to be a function of time, and this is going to be different at different instance of time t plus del of t. So suppose since the channel is going to change over the distance, the values of your tapped coefficients, that is the H0, H1 and HV is going to be totally different at different times there. So in that case, the channel is going to be highly variant in terms of time as well as in terms of delay there. The fundamental function, so how we are going to describe this broadband fading channels is using statistically we are going to define it as a two-dimensional autocorrelation function. So the autocorrelation function in terms of your time delay as well as your time functions is going to be given as a of del t comma del tau comma del t is equal to expectation of h of tau 1 comma t1 at instant t1 into autocorrelation with h of tau 2 comma t2. So in that case your t2 is going to be taken at different instances of time, that is nothing but t plus del t. So this is your autocorrelation function. So this equation is going to be called as your Whiteson stationary uncorrelated scattering function there. So here this is going to be the most popular model for your wideband fading channels. So the delay spread or the time domain interpretation. So here the received signal, I am going to have two impulses. The two impulses are going to be received with a duration of 2 tau seconds there. So first suppose for example, I am going to have as a signal the channel input with a duration t. So suppose if the delay tau is tau by t, if I am going to take the ratio of tau by t, if the delay is going to be very small, in that case there is going to be no intersymbol interference. So suppose if tau by t is going to be very large, in that case you can see that the two signals are going to be totally different. That means that there is going to be an intersymbol interference present, which we say that it is an irreducible error there. So next is we are going to see about the delay spread. So the delay spread is when I am going to transmit the signal, that is the multipath signals are going to be present. So I will be getting multiple impulses are going to be got at the output there. So multiple impulses of the varying power is going to be received because of the multipath cell. So this time dispersion is also going to be referred as your multipath delay spread. So delay is delay between the first significant path and the last significant path is going to be termed as your excess delay spread. So here in this case, if I have taken two different channels there, these two different channels can have the same excess delay spread there. So how we can measure the delay spread is, it is nothing but in terms of RMS delay spread, sigma tau. So sigma tau is equal to square root of tau square minus mean of your tau square then. So where L is number of paths and beta I is going to be the amplitude of the path I arriving at time tau I. So the maximum delay spread is going to be given as tau max. So when it is going to be given as tau max, you are going to have the wireless channel is going to be characterized with V delay taps, and which is going to be represented as the channel response. So V is going to be given as tau max divided by Ts, where Ts is going to be the sampling period. So to calculate the number of delay taps, which is nothing but the maximum delay spread divided by the sampling period is going to be used for getting the number of delay taps in the channels what we are going to use. So tau RMS is nothing but it is going to give the measure of the width or the spread of the channel response in time. So a general rule is tau max should be equivalent to 5 times the tau RMS. So next we are going to see about coherence bandwidth. So coherence bandwidth is nothing but it is a statistical measurement of the range of frequencies over which the channel is going to be constant or it is going to be considered flat. So here we are going to have the coherence bandwidth in the frequency domain, which is going to be the dual of your delay spread, channel delay spread. So tau max is nothing but the value which is going to describe the channel duration. BC is nothing but the range of frequencies over which the channel is going to stay constant, and the channel delay spread is going to be given as BC is equal to 1 by 5 tau RMS. 5 tau RMS is nothing but tau max. So BC is equal to 1 by tau max. So time spreading coherence bandwidth. So we can see that your F0 is nothing but the bandwidth over which the frequency, the response is going to be constant. So suppose if I am going to take the time signal there, the time signal is going to have the symbol time is going to have a width W, the bandwidth W, and this bandwidth is going to be less than your F naught, the coherence bandwidth means. Then in that case, even if there is going to be a delay spread, there is not going to be interchannel interference there. So we call this to be a flat fading effect. Suppose the second graph, if I am going to see the bandwidth of the, so there is a symbol time bandwidth is going to be W, which is going to be much larger than the coherence bandwidth F naught. So suppose for example, if there is going to be a time delay spread, then automatically it will have an effect, it will have interfere with the previous symbol there. Then we can call it as, we can say that it is going to be a frequency selective fading there, and intersymbol interference is going to be present. Next is we are going to see the time variant behavior of the channel. So time variant behavior of the channel is, I am going to take the transmitter and the receiver is going to be the car. So when the car is going to move, then this is going to have multipath, that is the car is going to receive the signal in multipath direction there. So one, it can be directly line of sight, one through the obstacle, or one through your buildings there. So in that case, the impulse response is going to be, this is going to have three paths. So three impulse response is going to be there, that is excess delay spread. So suppose if I am going to assume that the car is going to move towards the transmitter side, in that case the channel is going to be the same, but the characteristics of the channel is going to vary. So even though it is going to vary, the impulse response is going to vary, but the excess delay spread is going to be the same. So we say that the relative movement between the transmitter and the receiver or objects between those cause variations in the channel characteristics. But this is going to have the propagation path change over the time. So the relative movement is also going to cause frequency spreading due to the Doppler effect. Next is basic Doppler effect. So basic Doppler effect is, if the transmitter or the receiver or both is moving relative to each other, then we are going to define it in terms of the Doppler frequency or the Doppler effect there. So here the Doppler effect is equal to d of t by c, where it is nothing but d of t is minus Vm of t by c. If I am going to differentiate that signal, tau of t is going to be d of 0 minus Vm of t by c, where tau naught, I can define it as t of 0 by c as tau naught minus Vm into t by c. C is nothing but the velocity of the light, and Vm is going to be the car speed. So propagation time is going to be the function of the time due to mobile car. So suppose this base station is going to transmit the signal cos 2 pi fct. The received signal will be changed by a Doppler frequency there, that is by tau of t. So received signal is cos of 2 pi fc into t minus tau of t. So here tau of t is going to be nothing but tau naught plus Vmt by c. So that I can Vm by c is nothing, Vmt by c is nothing but your Vm by c into fc is nothing but a Doppler frequency. So I can write it as cos 2 pi into fc plus fd into t minus phi. So it is going to be a Doppler frequency shift is nothing but Vm by c into fc. Doppler spread in multipath. So Doppler spread in multipath is, when the car is going to move, in that case the same signal is going to be transmitted, and because of the obstacles I am going to have three different signals to be arrived at the receiver, and each signal is going to make theta 1 difference between the direct line of sight. So here in this case, the first signal is going to have Vm cos theta 1, second is going to be a Vm cos theta 2. So I am going to have a single sinusoid signal which is going to be sent by the base station, and at the receiver side I am going to have three sinusoids, the sinusoidal signal, where it is going to be the carrier frequency plus the Doppler frequency 1, then carrier frequency plus the Doppler frequency 2, and plus the direct line of sight propagation, that is your carrier frequency plus the Doppler frequency there. So here in this case Fd is going to be the maximum Doppler frequency, which is going to be given by Fc into Vm by d. So the due to the different angles of arrivals of the multipath, you are going to have the velocity is going to be different for different multipaths. So the time variant channel, here it is going to be called as the coherence time. So coherence time is nothing but the approximate time duration over which the channel response is going to remain invariant. So in bandwidth you had seen it is going to be constant, time is nothing but it is going to remain invariant there. So the maximum Doppler frequency is nothing but it is an important measure of the time variance of the channel characteristics, because based on the variation only a Doppler frequency, variation of channel characteristics only, the Doppler frequency is going to vary. So it is going to depend on the relative speed of any movement between your transmitter and the receiver and the carrier frequency there. So T naught is equivalent to 1 by Fd, where Fd is the maximum Doppler frequency. So what we are going to conclude is, if the transmitter and the receiver are going to move fast relative to each other and the Doppler is going to be, and the Doppler will be large, so the channel will also change its behavior, where it is going to be channel behavior is going to be so quick if the transmitter and the receiver are going to be moving at a higher faster speed there. So suppose if I am going to have a high frequency and mobility is going to be present, the channel may change up to 1000 times per second. So when the channel characteristics are going to change, this is going to affect the overhead channel and channel estimation algorithms, and we are going to making the assumption of the accurate transmitter channel knowledge questionable there. And additionally, the large Doppler at high mobility and frequency can also degrade the OFDM carrier orthogonally. So these are the disadvantages if we have when the transmitter and the receiver are going to move fast, and the channel is going to continuously vary with respect to time.